that we did was that when you go off the screen in any direction, so we got it to move, okay, and if you went off the screen, it would exit the game, okay, and that's great. So now the other thing that we're going to do is let us draw an apple, okay, because that's kind of the whole point of the game, right? So let's do that. What we're going to do is we're going to create another class for the apple, and this is good because it's like a practice for using classes. Now I should make it a point that this entire game can be built without classes, but since classes are so imperative to other more complex games, this is why it's a good time to learn how to use them. So we're going to create another class, Apple. Okay, same thing as before. Pygame.sprite, capital S for the second one. Okay, and this is going to be the Apple settings. Okay, and we'll have a init. So in itself. Okay, so this is going to be our initializer, our constructor right here, and we're going to do pygame. And now this is the long line, right? Pygame.sprite dot underscore underscore init underscore underscore self. Okay, and the same thing as the snakes, right? So if you have a sprite, they must have an image, and you have to have a rectangle around it. So we can start with the image, self.image, and we'll use a regular thing like what we did, a regular pygame.surface, like the way that we did for the snake. And when you open that up, that is going to be a tuple. Okay, so we're gonna make the same size, 20 by 20. Okay, a tuple meaning that it has to be, it goes like that together. It's not separated, and it can't be changed. Then we have self.image.fill, and we're gonna fill that with red because the apples are red, some are green. And we'll also take a rectangle around that. So self.rect is equal to self.image. So we're going to the image, and then we're using the dot get rect to create a rectangle. So get the rectangle around the apple. All right. So that is everything for an apple so far. And what else do we need now? Well, now we need to display it. Okay, so from the beginning at the top, we had this import random that hasn't been used yet, but we're gonna use it now because when you have a collision, or when the snake touches the apple, you want the apple to randomly spawn somewhere else. So what we're gonna do is, well, we're going to have to create kind of the same thing as a snake, right? Like an initial place. So self.rect.x equals, and then self.rect.y equals. Now in the snake one, let me just scroll up to the snake one real quick. In the snake one, we had identified here exactly where we wanted the location of the snake, but for the apple, we don't want to know where that's going to be. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use random. Okay, so in the random, so random is a class, and inside the class, random dot, okay, the same thing as the way we did, what is this, player, where did I have this? Yeah, see how the player dot game exit. So random dot, and that means we're going to be accessing a method inside the random class, and that is called rand range. Okay, it is a method that will determine that gives you back a random number between whichever start and end. Okay, so it says start, stop, step. We're going to talk about the start and the stop one. So we're going to start where, and for that we need to go back to this little thing over here. Okay, let me see if I can just clear annotations real quick. Clear annotations. All right, I don't see anything that says that. Oh, clear annotations. All right, so to do that, okay, let me grab my pencil. It's not going to be as simple as just saying, oh, okay, well, from 0 to now this is my width, so from 0 to 600, because if the program chooses 0, that's fine, it starts here. Okay, if the program chooses 600, remember where that this right here is your x comma y. Okay, so if the computer or the program randomly chooses 600, now that's going to push the edge here. And so all you're going to see is a little sliver of the apple, but the snake will never be able to get to it because if it goes off the screen, it's over. So what we really need to do is we need to let it choose any number between 0 up until this spot. Okay, and being that it starts at, okay, so being that it starts here, we can go backwards real quick. Being that it starts there at x comma y, all right, we need to have from 0 all the way until self.rect.x, that's this piece here, minus though the size of the apple. So that we need to know like the snake size, or in this case, my fault, the apple size, which we don't even have yet. Okay, so that way, if the apple size was, let's say 20, okay, that means the farthest it can go is, let's say 580. Okay, so that would be like right around here, and that would be great because then that would make sense. If it starts at 580, it still has that extra 20 to reach the end of the screen, and you can see the whole apple on the screen. Versus if you let it go to 600, you won't even see anything. Okay, the same thing would work for the height. So the height, we can have it start at 0, okay, but we can't let it go all the way down to 800 because then the top piece might look like this. So we want to have the height, okay, whatever the height is, 800 in this case, minus this distance, which is going to be the apple size that we're going to make, all right, and that's the farthest that you can go. So when we come over here, we are going to also have to include self.apple size. Now we're going to keep this, we'll keep it at 20. And for our self.rect.x, we had rand.range, so from 0 to whatever the width is, okay, because that can change anytime, minus self.apple size. Okay. Now what's going to happen is if we keep it like this, you're going to see that they don't correlate perfectly. And actually, they won't like mesh together. So what we're going to have to do in this part, so I mean, if you really want to see that, you can actually go back at the end of this and take off this piece that I'm going to put in right now. So I'm going to put round. At the end, I'm going to put divided by 10.0 and then times by 10.0. That equalizes out the pixels. Okay. So again, if you want to see what it would look like without it, wait until the end of the video and then just erase the round portion and this portion, and you'll see for yourself how it doesn't work that well. All right. For the y, also the same thing, only we're going to be dealing with the height. Okay, minus the apple size, and we are going to keep everything else the same. That looks pretty good. Awesome. So now all we have to do is make a function to find, actually we could just make an update. Okay, maybe we won't even need an update. Actually, yeah, we'll just pass this right now. And the other thing that we need to do though is that we need to come down and we need to make an instance variable. So apple is equal to apple. We'll call an apple. Now this variable then has access to all of this. Okay, so we're going to add it to this all sprites. So all sprites that add the apple. All right, so now we've placed in this container two things, the snake and the apple. So when we go down on the bottom now and we do like all sprites that update, it'll update both of them at the same time, and then it'll draw both of them at the same time instead of having to individually do each one. All right, so let's just see what would happen here and if it would display. Okay, so you see where it is right there? Okay, just memorize where that is, right here on the bottom. So now if I run it again, it really should go somewhere else. Perfect, see, it's all the way up here, and you just run it like 2 or 3 times just to make sure that everything is good. Awesome. Okay, and you'll see, oh, and this is a perfect example because you see how it's all the way at the edge, right? So that's because it chose the last number there. Now I can't really stop moving. Oh, I died. So the next thing we got to do after that is that if we have a collision, then it's going to randomly spawn the apple somewhere else, and that's something that we can do in a different video.